Same-sex couples from Indiana to Oklahoma to Virginia were able to marry today, just hours after the Supreme Court said it would not intervene.
You may kiss your bride.
The justices gave no explanation for why they declined to get involved. But for the past decade, the court has been laying the groundwork with other rulings protecting gay rights.
The Supreme Court has spoken. Well, to be completely factual, the Supreme Court sat in their chairs and said absolutely nothing. Such is how the nation discovered the highest court in the land was dealing with the issue of gay marriage, leaving it to 5 states and eventually everyone else to deal with the matter on their own. To some, exactly as it should be, and to others, a complete cop-out and show of judicial cowardice. All right, time to dig a little deeper. Let's welcome to MidPoint legal analyst and the man I like to say has very few opinions and never lets them out, Adam Thompson. And from Right Wing Watch, Bruce Hausknecht joins us. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Bruce,
I'm
sorry,
Focus
go ahead.
on the Family. I'm from Focus on the Family, not Right Wing Watch.
I'm very sorry they gave me the wrong information. Please accept my apology. Focus on the family. There you go. Let's make sure we make that point. I'm going to start with you, though, Bruce. There are some who say that this was an act of cowardice. The Supreme Court just chickened out and didn't make a decision. What's your thought?
Well, it's kind of startling that they let an issue as important as marriage kind of go without a Supreme Court addressing it. And so the only thing that I can assume, and I've seen some other comments from this from other commentators, is that the conservatives on the court were pretty convinced that Kennedy was a lost cause on the issue of marriage, and why give him another opportunity to issue an opinion from his spot there as the decision maker on these kind of cases that would further erode the whole institution of marriage. So, you know, we're disappointed in it, but I can see in hindsight how this might have happened.
Bruce, how do you feel then when the Washington Post comes out with a headline that says the Supreme Court confirms what we already knew? The fight over gay marriage is over.
Well, that the legal fight has had a momentary blip. You know, there are still legal cases in several of the circuits. I don't know how the action or inaction by the Supreme Court is going to affect those remaining cases. But then there's also the social fight that's going to continue for years, if not decades, just like we've seen in the fight over abortion since 1973.
Adam, here comes the fight to you now, because again, the Supreme Court basically did sit on its hands. Were you surprised? Because I'll tell you, a lot of people thought they were going to at least do something with it early, but there were those who say, wait, it's not over yet. They can still take this up at another time.
I think the Washington Post nailed it on the head. This debate is really over for all essential purposes. There really was no need for the Supreme Court to address it, and I'm not really that surprised. Lots of people are saying, wow, we're so surprised they just didn't decide the issue. If you look at the history of the Supreme Court, they took this kind of road and path in the past. You know, when interracial marriage wasn't allowed in all individual states and it had all these roadblocks, they let that issue slowly evolve by itself. And then over time, as people realized that there was nothing wrong with it and equal rights should be accessible to everybody, you should be able to marry whatever the color barrier was, they slowly let states get more adaptive to this. And then eventually a ruling came out, but they let that evolve over time. And I think a lot of the justices and Justice Ginsburg-Beda spoke on this, that maybe there was a rush when they did Roe v. Wade, even though they think that's the correct law, that by rushing to that decision so quickly, it started all this stir up and turmoil that we now see still evolving. The way it is right now with gay marriage, it's legal now in 30 states. So far, since the law has really been changed through the previous Supreme Court decision in Windsor, they basically made it clear this is the direction they're going. It's legal federally, and it can't be discriminated against federally, and then they left it to the states to resolve it. So far, any state that has contested gay marriage, when it went up on appeal to those federal circuit courts, all the circuit courts have followed the previous Supreme Court ruling, and there's nothing in dispute. Trust me, once there's going to be a federal district court that comes out against allowing gay marriage, and they say, yeah, and this state will allow it, then you'll see the Supreme Court at that point act and say, you know what, it's not banned anywhere anymore. We're going to take that case, they'll overrule it, and that'll set the precedent. But until a federal court comes out in that manner, contradictory, you won't see them touch it.
All right, now I'll tell you what, you've just given Bruce Hausknecht an awful lot to think about here. We got to take a break. We'll come back on the other side. Adam Thompson and Bruce Hausknecht from Focus on the Family. We'll return after the break, and we'll discuss what was just said. Later on this hour, the hardcore Obama supporter who's grown tired of those who refuse to hold the president accountable. It's next.